What is happening, everybody? We have Thursday Night Football tonight, and a good Thursday Night Football game. We hardly get this kind of thing on paper, but we have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. So two of the better teams in the AFC going head-to-head, and I'm going to enjoy this because some of the Thursday Night Football games haven't been great on paper this year, and this one really should be. So let's break it down from both a DraftKings and a FanDuel perspective, looking at the showdown contest for today. If you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really do appreciate it. It's only going to take a half second of your time. And if you want to sign up for the football package at Stokastic.com, now is the time because you're going to get 20% off when you sign up using the promo code Millie. The reason that is the promo code and the reason that we're running a promo right now is because we had a number of big wins over the weekend. We had somebody win $1 million in the 555 contest on DK. Somebody won $100,000 in the $3 20 max. And also somebody won 10 grand in the very low buy-in mini max tournament. So we had people, all different contest buy-ins, different tournament structures, end up winning tournaments over the weekend and wanted to celebrate it by running this promo. So promo code Millie is going to get you 20% off when you sign up for any of our Sims packages for the first time. So you want to sign up for NBA, NFL, use that promo code Millie and get 20% off. But I've already built lineups out here for DraftKings, and I'm going to favorite the top 150 here. And we'll look at what's the top players that I'm getting the most exposure to, top lineups, duped lineups, players I'm underweight to, and we'll do it for FanDuel as well. Starting with my number one overall top projected lineup, which is actually leaving $1,700 in salary on the table, but still highest simulated ROI by a pretty wide margin, 411.1% compared to my second best lineup, which was at 302.2. And this lineup has Jamar Chase in the captain spot, the Bengals defense, Evan McPherson, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, the Ravens defense. So it is a 5-1 Bengals onslaught stack, and it has both defenses. So defenses from both sides in there. Let's go ahead and look at some of the duped lineups. Lineup that is expected to be duped the most tonight using all of the salary. Trenton Irwin, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, and Tyler Boyd. So that is your most duped lineup projected of the night in the initial run that I'm doing here. As far as the players that I'm getting the most exposure to on DraftKings, starts with Joe Burrow. He is in 58% of my lineups in the flex spot. Let's see, what is our captain exposure to Joe Burrow? 12%, so overall 70% of my lineups have Joe Burrow. And then Lamar Jackson, also somebody popping up in a ton of lineups from a 50.7% exposure in the flex spot, 32% in the captain spot. So that means we've got 83% of lineups with Lamar Jackson, 70% of them there with Joe Burrow. So the quarterbacks, the two top overall options on the slate. Other players that we're getting a lot of here. Evan McPherson, kicker for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's in 52% of my lineup, so well overweight to him as somebody who's not massively popular for a showdown slate, 22% owned here. So well overweight to McPherson. And in general, my lineup's really gearing more towards the Bengals side of the game. Top rostered players, Burrow, McPherson, Jackson, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. So that is, four of my top 5 players in terms of exposures are coming from the Bengals side of the game. If we keep scrolling down and look at some of the other players that I'm getting to Tyler Boyd, although with that said, it is underweight to Tyler Boyd. He's projected for 32% ownership, and I got to 26.7% of him, so slightly underweight. Getting to some of the Ravens defense, about even with the field. And then where were we on the Bengals defense? 13%. So even though my top 2 lineups had both the defenses in it, I'm not actually getting a ton of defense exposure, at least not on DraftKings. Other players here making it into lineups. Trenton Irwin, serviceable value option, although with that said, also 20% of him compared to 24% that the field has, so not all that much different there. But getting underweight to these skill position players from the Ravens, it looks like. So yeah, players I'm most underweight to, Keaton Mitchell. So Mitchell, we are expecting Gus Edwards to get more touches than Mitchell today. So even though Mitchell getting steamed up a little bit on social media right now, we have him projected for 6.2 fantasy points, Gus Edwards for 9.17, which ultimately has me getting underweight to both of them, running lineups through our Sims, underweight to Justin Tucker. So if you're going to roster a kicker today, our data prefers Evan McPherson, then also underweight to Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. So getting back to what I was saying at the top, lineup's really more geared towards the Bengals side of the game in our projections in Sims as opposed to the Ravens side. Bengals looking like the better team to be targeting tonight. As far as some guys that we could be overweight to the field to, Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, getting to a lot of him there. My most rostered captain, Evan McPherson, touched on him before. Andre Losevis, I don't think I pronounced that correctly. I know I tried my best. I didn't try my best. I looked at the name and I was just like, here's what it might sound like. not getting rostered at all by the field. Got to him in 9% of lineups. So he's somebody, if you're looking to punt and be contrarian, only project for 2.72 fantasy points for us. Still got him into 9.3% of lineups. As an unowned player, that is one way to differentiate lineups. Also coming in overweight to the field here on Nelson Aguilar. Only project for 13% ownership. So if you want to punt play from the Ravens side of the game, Aguilar is the guy who looks like he makes the most sense. Let's go and build lineups out for FanDuel now. And then we'll check what's popping up there. So FanDuel, generate lineups. Something else in here that we now have as a new feature is you can now build lineups specifically for the contest type you're playing in. So let's say you're somebody who plays, the quarter arcade or lower stakes. Well, we do have a low stakes setting now, which is going to make it so that the ownership in the field's lineups are more geared towards lower stakes. And then conversely, we have the same thing for high stakes, where you'll often see the players who are the best points per dollar plays, especially in a sport like basketball, are going to be more popular, higher owned. So we have sliders for that, which are going to make it so that you could have your lineups more geared towards the contest that you're playing in. All right, let's simulate out the FanDuel lineups that I just built, and we'll see what ends up popping up on FanDuel. Big contest on FanDuel for tonight. Probably should have checked this before I pressed the sim button, but we have it $555,000 prize pool, $100,000 to first place is what we have as the payout structure on FanDuel. Just sim these. Favorite the top 150. Number one overall projected lineup on FanDuel has Joe Burrow in the MVP spot with Odell Beckham Jr., Tyler Boyd, Lamar Jackson, Evan McPherson. So not exactly the same because it doesn't have the double defenses, but relative to our top DraftKings lineup, top FanDuel lineup is also geared a little bit more towards the Cincinnati Bengals. 3 Bengals, just 2 Ravens. If we look at the lineups that are duped the most on FanDuel, number one most duped lineup, which actually still did make it into my top 150, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrow, Rashad Bateman. Then a lot of these other heavily duped lineups, because of how often they were duped, were not ones that simulated out quite as well. But Joe Burrow, Zay Flowers, Tyler Boyd, Trent Irwin, Jamar Chase, the second most duped lineup on FanDuel. Player exposures. Getting to a ton of Lamar Jackson, even more so in the multiplier spot on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. 51.3% MVP ownership to Lamar Jackson in my lineups. And then if we go ahead and look at Joe Burrow, he is showing up in 20.7% of lineups here for me. It looks like we don't quite have the ownership updated here yet. But either way, we could go ahead and we could look at who the players are that I'm getting the most exposure to. Evan McPherson showing up a ton as a value option, 61%. So just like over on DraftKings, McPherson, top value option to play over on FanDuel, and more than half my lineups, like getting to Evan McPherson there. And then some other players here rounding out my top. It's the same guys that we saw over on DraftKings. Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, Evan McPherson. They make up 4 of our top 5. The one Ravens player up there is Lamar Jackson. Other players, if we scroll down here and look at the MVP spot, 20.7% of Joe Burrow, 14.7% of Jamar Chase, and then 6% Joe Mixon. So really only getting to Chase, Burrow, and Lamar Jackson in the MVP spot on FanDuel. Not really too many low-cost options popping up in lineups. Only 12.7% of the Bengals defense, 18% of the Ravens defense, so nothing really excessive there. Trent Irwin is the value play we're getting the most here, 20.7%. Well, I guess it depends if we're considering McPherson. McPherson, the most rostered value, the most rostered skill position value player here on FanDuel ended up being Trent Irwin at 20.7%. So that is a roundup of everything to look at for FanDuel and DraftKings today. If you guys haven't done it yet, like, follow, subscribe, and don't forget, if you're looking to sign up for our Sims tool for the first time for any of basketball or for football, use that promo code Millie, get yourself 20% off. So guys, that does it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck tonight.